Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the world of Dawn of Defiance. This is an early access game on Steam made by Trega Entertainment. It launched into early access August 15th, 2024. This video is a snapshot of the first hour or so of gameplay of the title. I'm not well versed in these survival sandbox games, so I apologize in advance if I look like a total noob in the gameplay you see, but you'll at least get a taste of what's in store for you if you decide to check it out. At a glance, this game is all about Greek fantasy meeting survival sandbox gameplay. The Steam page for the game lists Icarus, Enshrouded, Raft, and Grounded as comparable titles. I'm not sure how accurate these comps are, but that's the Steam algorithm for you. I'll be curious to see what the Steam reviews say over the coming weeks. If anything, my brief time with the game reminded me more of Valheim, although I didn't spend a lot of time in that one. Like I said, survival sandbox is not something I play a ton of, but I think the mythic Greek-type setting is what made me want to check this one out. A quick word about the developer, Trega Entertainment. On their Steam profile, it looks like they've got one previous game listed, which came out to mixed reviews in 2022. It seems like Dawn of Defiance is a new type of game genre for them. The development team is based out of Nashville, and their website says they come from a bunch of other well-known studios like Blizzard, EA, Bungie, and others. Anyway, with that all said, let's check out a few highlights from my time with the game. Like a lot of other games in this genre, the game had me starting out without a lot of backstory, crafting basic tools, and gathering resources in the initial starting area. The UI is mostly utilitarian, and the flavor copy combined with the quest tab copy gave me a general idea of what the game wanted me to do next. I found myself moving between the shore and the tree line to find the beginner resources the game wanted me to gather. Without stating the obvious, here I'm chopping down a tree to get some wood for the next set of tools and weapons the game told me to build. So far, it's all standard stuff. As one might expect, bigger trees took longer to chop down. Also, the stumps of the big trees yielded additional resources if you continued to chop away at them. Again, the tool crafting menu is fairly straightforward. I found myself hopping in and out of the UI, mostly as a way to check the next objective that the game was asking me to take care of. No big surprises in the game so far. In addition to resources needed to build tools, the game now started pointing me to collect resources that went into potion crafting. So this included things like berries or other organic plants. Here you can see my first combat encounter. I was doing the usual gathering stuff, and this boar happened to sneak up on me. As one would expect, it is pretty easy to dispatch. I was generally trying to follow down the path that was littered with wooden arches, as my assumption was the game designers had placed them there as a way of guiding the player towards where they should go, or what resources to find next. Along the way, I encountered a rabbit and killed it with the spear I'd crafted earlier. After encountering the rabbit, one of the thoughts I had was really an assumption that those creatures would probably run away pretty fast in the future, and that I got lucky killing it the first time. Coincidentally, the game then suggested building a bow instead of arrows, so that was a neat coincidence relative to my expectation of needing a ranged weapon in the near future. I started playing around with the graphics settings a bit. My card is a 3090 Ti, so it's not old per se, but sometimes on an ultra-wide monitor I don't get the frames I want on it with the latest and greatest titles. I'm not a settings guy, and that's not the point of this channel, so I won't elaborate beyond that. Eventually the game asked me to build a hammer, which was basically the gatekeeper to starting to build housing structures, so you can kind of see the opening bits of that in the gameplay here. The first instance of weather effects start to kick in here as I was gathering stuff for the house I was building. Always nice to see rain effects though, that's the standard expectation for most games of this type these days. Again, I don't play a ton of these kinds of titles, but for a brief minute there, I was feeling like the game was asking me to gather an inordinate amount of materials to move on to the next objective. If you play these kinds of games though, maybe this is standard fare. The day-to-night cycle started to kick in around this time as I was building the house. You can see the sun start to set, and at nighttime, honestly, it gets kind of hard to see what's going on, not just in the gameplay, but I imagine here on YouTube it's going to be tough to tell what's going on too. Apologies in advance for that. Lots more gathering of materials, but we're starting to see the floor and walls of the house get built up. Nighttime is definitely beginning to fall in earnest here. To be honest, just as I was playing the game, I was having a really hard time seeing what was going on. I'm sure if I was to jump back into the game, which is not a guarantee at this point, there is probably a torch or something I could have made to help with visibility. I didn't look for it in the build options, but you know, next time I probably should do that. You know, as I'm reviewing the footage here, this portion of the night is a little bit clearer to see. I don't know if that's a factor of moonlight or maybe just that I was pointing the camera at the sky at a certain point as I was building the roof of the house. But this gameplay is a little bit clearer to check out as the house starts to form. For this next bit of video, you see the last part of the outer structure of the house built out. The final roof pieces get built, and also the doorway gets built. Next, the game starts teaching you how to build fixtures for the house. Here we're starting off with the bed. I imagine you can interact with this bed and sleep in it, but in the gameplay you're watching, I don't think to try to do that. Worth checking out later, obviously. Around this portion of my time with the game, I started going further afield based on what quest objectives the game was giving to me. I was asked to go kill a few more hares. I didn't see any next to the house, so I had to start exploring at this point. Turns out the bow did come in handy here with the hares, given their speed. We ended up getting some sort of unlock on the hunter skill tree, or specialization tree. I didn't spend much time looking at how this aspect of character building mapped out, but I imagine it's comparable to other games, where as you build your expertise, you get more proficient at certain things. The game asked me to build a butcher's table or some other crafting facility of some sort here. You can kind of start to extrapolate out how this game is going to progress. Again, it's not too dissimilar from other comparable titles in the genre. So after building the butcher's table, the game asked me to go find something called ambrosia dust. I had no clue what this was, so I took it as the game signaling to me that it was time to start exploring. Again, I was mostly trying to stick to that path with the arches. I encountered a few deer along this path and was trying to hunt them, but couldn't quite figure out the range to stay outside of before they ran away from me. Morning starts to break again, at this point in time in my gameplay. And around the same time I was continuing to explore, and I ended up seeing a few structures in the distance. Obviously my instinct was that, this might be the place where I need to find the next quest items. I ended up encountering another boar here, which I dispatched with the bow and arrows. It took a bit longer to kill than I would have thought. I ended up checking out a fountain on the other side of the lake we walked up to earlier. I thought the quest items might be here, but they weren't. I decided to keep going up the tree line here, but remembered that statue I saw off by the shore, so started to turn back in that direction. I got distracted on the beach on the way to the statue and encountered this fire pit. Same thing. I figured maybe the quest item was here, but it wasn't. Eventually, I walked up to the giant statue. The treasure chest here ended up having some of the ambrosia dust we needed, but not all of it. So the game is encouraging further exploration at this point. I encounter another boar here, and this time, I decide to go melee instead of ranged. Interestingly enough, I hadn't tried using the shield block before this point, but I did successfully use it a couple times in this encounter. I thought maybe the jars here would be breakable, but they were not. Moving down the road toward the large arch, I see a couple humanoids off in the distance. In the footage, I kind of stop here, but as I approached them, it was clear they were going to aggro, so I started getting ready for combat. Here we start the encounter with ranged and then go melee. Honestly, a better player, someone with more skill or attention, probably beats this encounter. I think this is a very beatable encounter, even at this level, but I just kind of failed at it. And upon death, we end up back at the start. I'm ending the video here, but I hope it helps a little bit. I'm sure there's better previews out there on YouTube, but this is still a new channel, and it's my first stab at putting together a video like this. You know the usual YouTube jazz, but especially leave a comment if you have suggestions on how I can make some of this better. Hope anyone watching has a great day.